So we got some extra scoop relating towards with its latest edition of The Last of Us. Once again, this franchise is getting yet another repackaged release, and this time it's called The Last of Us Complete. It's just basically a bundle that combines The Last of Us Part 1 and The Last of Us Part 2 remastered on the PlayStation 5. Now, of course, if you're, a seasoned fan, a newcomer, or someone who's only dipped the toes into this universe, is maybe a good opportunity to experience the story, whether, of course, or not you're interested, or maybe you already had enough of it. I want to get into, I want to be real at the moment. I want to be honest. A lot of people are starting to feel a bit burned out, actually quite burned out on all of these sorts of remakes, remasters, PC ports, and now with this basically a bundled release of the PlayStation 5 games. And The Last of Us in particular seems to be just getting this kind of a new version every other year, every other month. Now first we had the original remakes, and then we got the remasters, then of course the PC ports and now bundles, and of course don't forget the TV series that are turning heads too. To be completely honest, it feels like there's just too much re-release going on, with every successful title getting hit with a new wave of updates. And some fans are voicing their fatigue, wondering if it's ever going to stop or just kind of like a wave for the companies to keep cashing in on the same old content. But backing to, The Last of Us Complete, this isn't just a basic kind of like a digital re-release. So of course, as mentioned, this is going to be availability in terms of having to play, or at least an opportunity of playing Part 1 and also Part 2 of The Last of Us on PlayStation 5. And of course, you just grab it straight away, you don't have to pay the money separately, instead you can, pay it all at once. Now, for those, of course, who prefer something like tangible, there's also something like a special collector's edition available for the pre-order at the direct PlayStation.com store, and basically, it will be actually hitting the shelves on July the 10th, though. And this is actually a physical release that comes in pretty cool look towards its collector's box, featuring fresh art that captures the human side of the story with a beautifully intricate design. Now, inside the box, you'll find a steel book case, right, with the same artwork holding the physical discs for both The Last of Us Part 1 and, of course, Part 2 of Remastered. Now, in each disc, it's supporting a minimalistic kind of design that gives a nod to the series aesthetic without being, kind of like over the top. And this complete edition is supposed to be a definitive way to play these two games on PlayStation 5 anyway. Well, that's what they say. Of course, as you guys already know, relating to The Last of Us Part 1, the remake, it basically has been rebuilt towards the PlayStation 5 specifically, so you will get all the bells and whistles of the fully integrated DualSense support, the enhanced 3D audio, really highlighting what the PlayStation 5 can do. And also, meanwhile, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, there's a lot more towards it. So what you can expect out of that is basically extra tons of bonus content, such as behind the scenes commentary, lost levels, a roguelike mode called No Return, which is actually pretty damn good, and even a guitar free play mode, which is actually incorporated very, very well in this game. And all the extra kind of gives the players more ways to dive into the game's world and learn about the great process behind it. And one of the neat touches in this release is the set of the lithographs included with it, and there aren't just random prints, at least they're carefully chosen pieces from the group of talented artists who have each offered a unique take on the characters and themes central to The Last of Us. So basically, these lithographs serves kind of like an artistic reminder of the beauty and of course the raw emotion that the series is known for, and giving you something to hang on your wall or keepsake, just without feeling like you're being forced to buy something just for the sake of it. Now, of course, this really is depending up to you if you really care about this sort of stuff or not. Now, there's where things can get somewhat interesting. So the complete edition is kind of positioned to be as a full, complete story of the series. Now, at least for the Part 1 and 2. This naturally makes some fans wondering if this means that the saga is finally over and that there's just no room for Last of Us Part 3. Well, the rumor that is just then, it seems to be there's going a lot more on the horizon, and there has been several hints and leaks from insider in the industry that suggests a new installment is in the development, or at least will be sometime in the future. And some of the team that used to work on other projects like Factions in The Last of Us Online has reportedly moved over to work on what was I don't know, insiders calling it Last of Us Part 3. And they're even giving this project an internal code name and are targeting launch during the midlife of the PlayStation 6, which might be around sometime in 2030, maybe 2031. Now there's also interesting twists when you consider the TV adaptation. So the new season of the TV show is on the verge of dropping, at least I believe just a few days, or just now anyway, it will be popping up for the second season. But then, when the first season hit, it drove quite a massive surge in game sales, as viewers wanted to experience the source material firsthand. And in many ways, this complete edition serves kind of like a bridge between the game's world and also the TV series. Now, giving new and old fans alike a cohesive way to experience everything on PlayStation 5. But you know, this also adds a conversation about how much The Last of Us content we already have. With constant remasters, remakes, digital ports, and now bundles, it's no wonder that a lot of fans feel like they're seeing rehashes after rehashes of some games. It makes you wonder if they might soon reach a point where there's just too much of The Last of Us and similar blockbuster PlayStation games being re-released over and over again. So what does this all mean for the future though? And despite this kind of feeling of fatigue that comes in with just too many remakes and remasters and bundles, there's a strong possibility that a new separate experience might be on the way. One of the developers mentioned in the interviews that he had some earlier ideas for a third game, but instead of another straightforward sequel that continues the story of Joel and Ellie as before. Now, this new concept might take a different route, almost like a side story or perhaps an epilogue that stands on its own. And this also means that while The Last of Us Complete gives you the full refined experience of the first two games, any future game might branch off into a new narrative direction. It might even get a completely different title, so that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a direct complete towards its completing its third story or part 3 of the story of The Last of Us. Personally, I've had a blast with both the Part 1 remake and including Part 2 Remastered even, and the upgrades on PlayStation 4 are genuinely very good, and the extra content in Part 2 adds a nice bonus for the fans who really want to dig into the lore and the development of the series, including the No Return mode. I love them all. But however, I get where people are coming from when they say that we're just seeing re-releases over and over again. It sometimes feels like we haven't experienced anything truly new from the Last of Us franchise lately, and that can be a bit of a letdown if you're looking forward to the fresh stories or gameplay innovations. Now, the ongoing chatter about the possible Part 3 certainly injects some kind of an excitement towards into this mix. Now, even though buzz around The Last of Us Complete might have seen kind of like an end of the era, it also leaves the door open for something new perhaps. It's a bit of a mixed bag on one hand, and you have a polished, enhanced version of the game that you already love. On the other, you're hearing hints that there might be some sort of a new adventure waiting in the wings. This balance is what keeps the conversation going among the fans, and even though some of us grow tired of constant remasters and never-ending cycle of re-releases. In the end, The Last of Us Complete brings together a ton of content in one neat package on PlayStation 5. And of course, whether you're grabbing, you want to grab this digitally or right now, or opting for maybe even that collector's edition with its interesting kind of physical extras and artwork, it promises a definitive way to experience the first two parts of this beloved series. And while it might add to the feeling that there's just too much of The Last of Us content coming our way, there's still a lot to be appreciating about how the series has evolved. The technical upgrades, engaging bonus content, and artistic touches are all part of the effort of keeping the experience fresh for both newcomers and of course long-time fans. At the same time, the constant influx of remasters, like mentioned, it just understandably kind of leaves people feeling like they're just being asked to re-experience the same story over and over again. With the TV series now in full swing and more games updates on horizon, you can't help but wonder if at this point where the fans are kind of starting to question if it's just too much. It just feels like every major PlayStation franchise is being squeezed and repackaged, which just can lead to a bit of a fatigue over the time. So, what do you think? Is this another cool update that shows how far Last of Us has come, or do you feel like it's just yet another long line of re-releases? do drop your thoughts down in the comments, and have a little bit of a chat regarding of the franchise, where it actually should be going forward as well. Should it be left behind? Should it continue on with the part 3? Perhaps maybe a different direction entirely? Leave it down your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to read it. At that, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys all, and have a wonderful day.